morning, everyone, and welcome to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Suzanne, and I'm here in our new sanctuary at 310 Danforth. You can see our new purple chairs set up behind me. I have your announcements for the coming week. On the last Sunday of the month, Fred, Phyllis, and I host morning chant and singing meditation. Because we had the AGM last Sunday, we are having singing meditation tonight. All are welcome to join us for a chant from a variety of our wisdom traditions of the world, as well as periods of silence. That's from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Music Zoom. Normally the Spirit Choir rehearses Monday evenings, but this month we are doing a special collaborative project with the Danforth Multi-Faith Commons. If you're interested to participate and sing with us, please contact me at music@nuuc.ca. On Wednesday mornings, Phyllis hosts Journey to Awakening conscious movement classes from 10:15 to 11:30 a.m., and you can contact her to register. We continue to support Club Sandwich, which provides sandwiches for local hungry people. If you are able to make sandwiches and drop them off at MCC, it is greatly appreciated. You can write to me for more details at music@nuuc.ca. Our Sunday Child Caregiver program happens every Sunday from 9 to 9:30 a.m. with Zach Getchell here in our regular Sunday Zoom space. Coffee with the Minister is Monday mornings at 10 a.m. for 45 minutes. Drop in and chat with Reverend Wayne about theology, defunding the police, or our congregation. You can even ask questions about our new partnership with the DMC. The address is in your Monday announcements. The C Committee is meeting on June 10th at 4:30 p.m. We will be discussing follow-up from our DMC Speaker Series events and brainstorm activities for the fall. We will not be meeting in July and August. The meeting will be happening here at our regular Zoom space. The Neighborhood Walk and Roll. Join in celebrating the longest day for our first Walk and Roll event. It's going to be happening Saturday, June 19th from 7 p.m. until dusk. We'll meet at the entrance to the Leslie Spit, or also known as Tommy Thompson Park. You can choose to roll with Susanne out to the lighthouse, walk with Steve and do some bird identification, or walk with Nancy and do some plant identification. You must RSVP so we can ensure that we are safely in small groups, safely numbered, so we can distance and manage COVID restrictions. Please RSVP to me, music@nuuc.ca. Join us on our UU Summer Service Travel Adventures. This summer, UU congregations in Southern Ontario and Eastern Canada have teamed up to share our services with each other. No fossil fuels are required to sit next to distant UU neighbors in 6 virtual services over the next 3 months. Instead of holding our own services, we'll be sharing with Halifax, Peterborough, Grand River, Mississauga, and Kingston. The Southern Ontario congregations will stream 2 of our services in July and August. It's a great way to meet our neighbors and experience the distinct and wonderful ways we express our UUism and create spiritual community together. More details to come. Next Sunday, we will not be having a regular neighborhood service, but we'll be joining our UU friends in Halifax, Nova Scotia, for their flower communion service. Please note that because of the time difference, the service will start at 9:30 a.m., not 10:30 a.m. We'll be sending you the Zoom link next week. If you would like to have a candle lit during the Halifax Joys and Concerns, you need to send your joy or concern in advance to the minister there, Norm Horofker, at AOL.com. Just 1 or 2 sentences, please. We also, Halifax also invites us to send photos of flowers to be included in their flower communion ritual to the same address. That email address will be in tomorrow's weekly emailed announcements. Chair and chair alike. We have 55 chairs donated by congregants, plus 50 chairs match means 62% of these beautiful purple chairs have been purchased, and 65 remain. If you're willing to purchase a chair for $100, you can have a small plaque put on the back with 90 characters. You could dedicate your chair to a loved one, or have a wonderful person remembered, or even share a short quote or words of wisdom. In honor of National Indigenous Peoples Day, Neighborhood is hosting a watch party of Jonathan Rudin's talk on the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the Canadian prison system. This was previously screened by the DMC. Join us on Monday, June 21st at 7 p.m. That'll be here in our regular Zoom space. All are welcome. And next Sunday, as I mentioned, we'll be joining the Flower Communion service with the UU Church of Halifax, starting at 9:30 a.m. Message of inspiration will be provided by their minister, as well as their music provided by their musicians.
Welcome to our service. We are the Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are happy to have you here as we stay emotionally and spiritually close in times when we need to stay physically apart. I'm Peter Marmorek, and I will be your service leader this morning from this beautiful field in my house. Our musical director is Susanne Maziarz, who's in our new sanctuary, as you just saw. Our minister is the Reverend Wayne Walder, who's on sabbatical. Our guest today is my longtime friend, Mohammed Hashim, about whom I'll tell you more later. Joan and Nisha will share the time for all ages. We also have Gordon Thorne doing the Zoom web hosting duties, and Moira McDonald pasting the relevant bits at the exact right moments in the chat window. Thank you to all of them. The usual Zoom etiquette rules apply. Stay muted, keep the chat open for reading and lyrics, and don't send chat messages to everyone during service. This service is being recorded for the public, both on YouTube and on our new website. Joys and concerns or similar personal moments will be edited out. If you have privacy concerns about that, you can turn off your camera so you're not seen and rename yourself so you're not known. In sacred space, the universe comes together in unity. In cyberspace, it separates into binary ones or zeros. We need your help to reconcile these differences. Now we stand here at the threshold. Turn off all those things that need to be turned off and turn on your heart and your spirit. Let's enter sacred space together. Our service begins now. As our chalice is lit, I encourage you to light your own personal chalice or candle, or consider holding your hands in the shape of a chalice. Now we light our chalice as the choir sings.
We light this chalice to remember, to light the fire within our own hearts.
And now for our prelude. Susanne, would you like to introduce it?
I am so thrilled to introduce our prelude this morning. be hearing the final video collaboration with the Spirit Choir and Gordon Thorne of Heart Wide Open and Good Enough by singer-songwriter Leah Morris. The song was written last year. Had the idea of incorporating some more of the talent in our congregation, and our own Lauren Renzetti has provided the illustrations that you'll be seeing in this video. Big love out to the Spirit Choir for recording this joyous song, and my friends Gordon and Lauren for putting it together. Hope you enjoy.
Keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. You've gotta keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, wide open. Though the waves wanna push you around, though the waves wanna push me around. You gotta keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, till your faith, till my faith brings me back to solid ground, till my faith brings me back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, I'm gonna keep wide open. Though the waves wanna push you around, though the waves wanna push me around. You gotta keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, I'm gonna keep wide open. Till your faith, till my faith brings me back to solid ground, till my faith brings me back to solid ground.
My hand, my hands, my hands are here to love.
My hands are strong enough, they're strong enough, and I'm good enough. My hands are strong enough to give love. I know that I am strong enough, and loud enough, and I'm good enough. My eyes are long enough to give love. I know that I am smart enough, smart enough, and I'm good enough. My heart is wide enough to give love. I know that I am smart enough, smart enough, and I'm good enough. My life is bright enough to give love. Keep your heart open, 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 back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, I'm gonna keep wide open. Though the waves wanna push you around, though the waves wanna push me around. You've gotta keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open, I'm gonna keep wide open. Till your faith, till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till your faith, till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till your faith brings
Good morning. If you're visiting us for the first time, we welcome you. Please stay around after service and get to know us better. You can choose to go to a breakout room or stay with Susanne in the main room where she'll answer any questions you may have about who we are and what we do. This was the week we learned that our provincial government feels it would be too dangerous to send our children back to school this year. Surely it is right and proper that governments be concerned about children's school safety. We also learned about the 215 Indigenous children who died at a residential school in Kamloops, and that in 2009, the federal government refused a Truth and Reconciliation request for $1.5 million to find all the graves of Indigenous children. The Kamloops residential school is just one of 139 residential schools across Canada where our children went. Our homes and our schools are on the traditional lands and territories of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Haudenosaunee nations. Let us remember their history and experience and be reminded that we are all accountable for a terribly dark chapter of that experience. What we can do, as the Spirit Choir sang, is to keep our hearts open and our light bright. That is our mission here at Neighborhood, to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of the world. I first learned the idea that we're responsible for fixing the world through Judaism, in which the idea of tikkun olam, healing and repairing the world, is one of the duties we have. I was a member of Tikkun Toronto for about 15 years. We were a group who worked to bring Jews and Muslims together in Toronto through music, drama, performances of all kinds. Working with Tikkun Toronto was a profoundly spiritual experience because it took me deeper into questions of oppression, colonialism, and privilege. I certainly don't claim we totally solved the problem, but I grew a lot from working on it. Every time any of us stood in front of this community in our old building on Hiawatha Street, we faced the quote by Carl Jung on the back wall. We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by exploring the darkness. The world today offers us a lot of darkness to explore, but the good news is there's a lot of enlightenment to be gained by exploring it. When we think of doing wrong, we usually think of what's called a sin of commission, the sin that you commit when you burn down someone's house, for example. But there are also sins of omission, something you should do that you don't. One of them is remaining silent when wrong is done. On Yom Kippur, Jews are told to make atonement for that. As the Talmud says, it was in your power to protest injustice and you remained silent. The Bible is clear on this. It says in Leviticus chapter 19, do not stand by while your neighbor's blood is shed. Our UU, soon to be adopted eighth principle, says much the same. We covenant to promote individual and communal action that accountably dismantles oppression. The exact wording may vary. But the core idea is in the UU DNA. This game does not come with any get out of social action free card. Spiritual growth and political action are like two legs. If you only look at your own spiritual growth, it doesn't heal the injured world. If you only look at political action without a spiritual component, it's just about expedience, gaining more power. Mohammed's talk will explore more deeply into these ideas. Traditionally, at this time in the service, we ask you to turn to your neighbor and greet them. We look forward to the time when we can do that again. But for now, briefly unmute your device, switch to gallery view, and offer a greeting to those around you. We'll sound a chime to end, but now greet your neighbors around you.
Keep your heart open.
Heart open.
Keep your heart open. Hello, everyone. Hi.
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi,
Hi,
Dolly.
Veronica. Hey, Becca.
Hi, Marcia.
Hello.
Nancy. I see Susan.
Hi, Jesse.
Moira.
Hi.
Laura.
Yeah.
Hello, Secret.
Tina.
Hi.
George.
I hope you're feeling okay.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Ellie.
Hello. Hi,
Ingrid.
Dee. Hi, Susie. Oh, time out.
Oops. Hello, everyone.
And now I invite you to join me in reading our opening words, which should appear on our screen and in the chat. If you don't have a screen, just listen to my reading. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. And now, as we hold this place open to grace and insight, please join Susanne for a song about resistance. Susanne?
Morning, everyone. I'm going to teach you the song that we'll be learning with the joint DMC choirs on a topic that I believe we can all agree on. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. I'll sing it for you once, teach it line by line, and we'll just get a chant going for a few times. Sounds like this. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. Line by line. We resist, we refuse. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in, to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. And there's a second part. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. We resist, We refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We're in this till the end. Thanks, everyone.
Now, will all the young and young at heart come up and get close to the screen, because Phyllis has something to share with you. Phyllis?
Hi, everybody. This morning, I was asked to offer a chant, or a Time for All Ages chant. I like to do chants, so that's what we're doing. And of course, my co-chanter is here with me. The Tibetan tradition has a wonderful Buddha of compassion. The Tibetans call him Shenrezi. And one of the images that you see of Shenrezi, he has 4 arms. And now when you see these images of Buddhas with more than 2 arms, it's symbology of all of the different qualities and gifts that these Buddhas have to offer us and teach us. So this Buddha, 2 of his arms are at the center of his heart like this. So I invite you, bring your hands together right in front of your heart with a little space in there. Don't flatten them. Let's make them nice. It's like you're holding the jewel. The chant I'm going to teach you is the jewel of compassion. And so you're holding in the front of your heart this jewel. So that's 2 of his arms. His other 2 arms, one of them is upright and it's holding a mala. This is a mala. This is what malas look like. And in the Tibetan tradition, there's 108 beads in them. And so meditators and chanters use malas to just focus their thoughts while they're chanting. And they count how many times they've said a mala, or I mean a chant. And the mala is also a symbol of cycles, because you go around, you count all 108 beads. And when you get to this one here with the little fuzzy bit on it, you turn around and go back. Just like in life, sometimes you get to the end of your journey and you have to turn around and do something else. So this is what the symbol of the mala is. And so in his right hand, Shenrezi is holding a mala, and he turns the mala. And in the left hand, he's holding a lotus. A lotus is a flower that opens, and there's a symbol. We're going to do this with our hands. You see, we open our hands. You kind of wrap your fingers around your thumb and then and open. This is a mudra. Mudra means hand movement. And it's a symbol of the lotus flower, which is a symbol of wisdom mind opening, of enlightenment, and being able to receive truth from your own inner teacher. And so the mantra of Shenrezi is Om Mani Padme Hung. I'm going to put the words, Om Mani Padme. Padme means lotus, and Hung. Om Mani Padme Hung. Mani is jewel. So Om is opening up your heart. We all join together in the sound of the universe. Mani Padme, we're chanting about the jewel in the lotus of the heart. And this is compassion. The jewel in the lotus of the heart is compassion. Compassion means having compassion, to have passion with. This is understanding and realizing that we are all in this journey together. And if something is happening in front of you that may need more love, we open our hearts and have compassion for that, what's happening in front of us, because we all know everybody has bad days, everybody has good days, and let's just have compassion for what's happening. The word Hung is like putting an exclamation point on it and making it real in the world. This is kind of what that word means. Om Mani Padme Hung. So I'm going to start chanting it, and then I'm going to do the movements, and you can follow along with me. We'll chant it for a little while. Om Mani. No, that's not the one. I know too many Om Mani Padme Hung chants. Om Mani Padme. Anyway, you know what? We'll just sing the one that's in my head right now. Om Mani Padme Hung. 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 Thank you.
Thank you. This is a special time in our service when we invite you to share a joy or a concern in your life. Open your reactions tab at the bottom of the main window and raise a virtual hand if you have a joy or concern. If you're here on a phone without a screen, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. To speak, of course, you have to unmute yourself. And to be seen, you need to have your camera on. Once you've spoken, please remute your device. Please respect the sacredness of the ritual and refrain from making announcements or telling stories. This is a cherished time in our community that brings us closer in times that are separating us. I'll start with a few for the congregation. I have deep gratitude, we all have deep gratitude for all the volunteer efforts, seen and unseen, that help our community to hold together in this hard time. I light a candle of hope over the vaccination numbers that go up, the COVID numbers that are going down. Last week, I know many of us spoke about the unspeakable sorrow of the 215 dead children found in Kamloops. This week, I light a candle for the hope I feel, seeing and joining the vigils, petitions, and the urgency of all the actions that are happening across Canada in response. In that case, I offer a final candle for all the joys and concerns that remain unspoken in our hearts. And now I ask Fred to lead us in meditative chant. Fred?
In the Muslim tradition, actually the very first words of the Quran are Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah means we begin in the name of Allah, or we begin in the name of the One. I like to think of it as we're beginning with the right intention and stepping off in the right direction. Bismillah ar-Rahman, with mercy, and ar-Rahim, compassion. So this is a chant we know as the Heart Bismillah, and please join me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 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 We begin in the name of the one who is mercy and compassion. Amen.
Mohammed Hashim is the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and a founding advisor of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Mr. Hashim has worked as a labor organizer and human rights advocate for over a decade, dedicating his career to supporting equity, inclusion, and empowering communities. That's his day job. The CBC has called him the Toronto Muslim community's crisis manager for the work he does when a crisis happens. At the top of his Facebook page, he has a great Martin Luther King quote, "Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war." I love this quote for the obvious reasons, but also because it takes me back to those days when I first met Mohammed. He was a student in a high school English class I was teaching. And I think it's fair to say that what made Mohammed stand out was not his organizational skills. He was a trickster and clearly very bright and surrounded by both teachers and students who didn't appreciate what a star he could become. But one of the gifts we tricksters have is to recognize each other. And it's been a great joy to see the wonderful work healing the world he's done in the nearly quarter century since then. I'll let him tell you more about that. Mo?
Wow. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And I want to just acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewas, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit. You know, I think that when I first started writing, I actually wrote a number of iterations of my talk today, and you know, at first I talked. And I'll go into a few things, but I really just want to pause for a second around the 215 kids that were murdered by the residential school system, whose blood is on all of our hands, whose murder was paid for by our tax dollars, and yet we still, you know, sometimes avoid responsibility of being able to own up to this moment, to the words, to the deeds that we have collectively allowed to have happen under our name. And I wanted to pause there because I think that what happened over the last couple of weeks has been an incredible amount of people, to be honest, people didn't know. We think that people do know, but they didn't. And they feel a significant amount of sadness and anger because it's happened and not enough has been done to change that. And I say that's because I think this is a moment where we need to really not just own up to what has happened, but change direction in a way that's deeply meaningful. The premise of my talk today is a quote from the Quran. It's from Surah Al-Baqarah. And the translation is this: and not equal are the good deed and the bad. Repel evil by that deed which is better, and thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend. But none is granted it except those who are patient. I use that quote as an inspiration to all the work that I've done in my career over a number of years, because I think that what for me has always been what may have come off as a trickster moment to Mr. Marmorek was me trying to poke to find alternative truths, in which truths that made me comfortable, truths that made me uncomfortable, and people that allowed me to grow in ways that I didn't anticipate. And part of that journey started in high school because of Mr. Marmorek, and part of it happened throughout my career. There was a moment where I had come back to Toronto after the Quebec City massacre, and over there, so just backing up, when I went to Quebec City after the 2017 massacre, because the National Council of Canadian Muslims asked me to go out there and help support the community. I met a ton of people, but I distinctly remember hearing from a 6-year-old girl who was in the mosque at the time of the shooter. And and she was complaining about her shoulder hurting. Her shoulder was hurting because when she was at the back of the mosque playing around while her dad was leading prayers, the gunman had come in and he started shooting, and all the men at the back of the mosque jumped on top of her to protect her. And obviously they crushed her. I mean, she was fine, but her shoulder was still hurting. But she wasn't fine just because of that. She was fine because when the gunman turned his gun towards her, he ran out of bullets. And that was a moment when I heard that, where I deeply changed the attitude towards how I address my work. Before, I was, to be honest, quite a bit of a social justice warrior, where it's either my way or not. As a union organizer, you kind of build those thick skins, and you have to just grind it out in order to make the argument and to win. But that experience that day, and the many victims who I spoke to, and the bloody carpets and the bullet holes in a place, seeing the bloody carpets and the bullet holes in a place where I would put my head down to pray, was something that really deeply changed my experience as a whole, but also just my approach to life. And that's where this quote comes in, because this quote is it doesn't say, if something bad happens to you, take revenge. It doesn't say, push back on people when they're pushing on you. It says, do better. And do better is such a vague way of it doesn't say, it says be patient. But it doesn't say pray. It doesn't say seek justice. It doesn't say one thing in particular. It doesn't say, be nicer it just means just be better. And God's left that for you to interpret in the way that you can. And in response to that, there was a promise. He says, and between you and him is enmity, will become as though he was a devoted friend. And I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that. I remember shortly after coming back from Quebec City, I was at a meeting with the Minister of Anti-Racism. Can you imagine we even had a Minister of Anti-Racism in Ontario? It seems like a lifetime ago, eh? And I shared that story, where I talked about what had happened in Quebec City. And then this kind, you know, 5'6", just a bit shorter than I was, man comes up to me and says, I think you and I have the same fight. And his name was Beryl Nadler, and he was the head of an organization called CIJA, which is the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. To be quite frank, up until that point, between the Muslim community and the Jewish community, there's large contingents of pro-Palestinian and pro-Israel sentiments that collide quite frequently, both politically and many other ways. I mean, for me personally, I had made some comments back in 2006, which were not anti-Semitic, but they were painted as anti-Semitic, and I almost got fired from my job because of that. So there was hostility, but also I was afraid. And here's this man who runs the Toronto area CIJA, which is the pro-Israel lobby, coming up to me and saying, I think you and I had the same fight. And I was afraid of him. I was really afraid of him. I was like, wow, who's this person? Why are they going to what is going to happen to me if I share any information with them? And obviously he knows all this. We've spoken about this publicly in synagogues and mosques. But the point that I'm trying to make is that after that, I didn't know how to take that relationship in the beginning, but it turned out to be one of the best relationships I've had in my life, because here was somebody who deeply loves Israel and is deeply passionate about it, and didn't want to turn a blind eye towards the suffering of Palestinians, and yet here we were living in two very different worlds, trying to find ways together. And I can tell you in innumerable ways where we've gotten together to fight anti-Semitism, to fight Islamophobia, and to really be able to neutralize the environment in between those two conversations. And clearly, that we didn't we were not successful in that one, because if we were successful in trying to neutralize that environment, this world would look significantly different. But it's also not upon us to neutralize the entire environment. It's just to be able to bring people together, to be able to find softness in each other's hearts. I think that for when we look upon what we've done, when I look upon what I've done, it's never been about just winning. Maybe it was for a long time, but maybe not more recently. It's always about building common hearts and softer hearts. And I think that the one thing that as Canadians we need to do is to be able to really open up our hearts, to be able to really hear people who we have incredible amounts of differences, and just hear where they are, why they're there, and why things are so important to them. And to be honest, from my end, I have learned an incredible amount from people who have done so, and given a tremendous amount of perspective because of such. And honestly, I don't think that if I hadn't gotten through those experiences, that the federal government would have appointed me to be, the person who's responsible for the Crown Corporation, the only Crown Corporation that was created to deal with racism in Canada. It's about hearing where people are and finding ways where we can find the common grounds and the softer hearts. And I think that if there's no place in Canada, if we can't do this here in Canada, there's no place in the rest of the world where I think that we have the conditions to be able to have those conversations. And I would just encourage you to think about how you can functionalize that in your worlds. Who are the people that you can speak to who you may not want to, can't stand? And what are the different things what are the common threads that you can find with them to just kind of break one cookie and split it 2 ways. And then maybe the next time you have a meal together, and the next time you have a deeper conversation. But I think that that's the way we need to go. And particularly because there's so much that we do have a responsibility to address. And the one thing that I want to say in conclusion is that it's not just about finding hearts to be able to find common ground and have common niceness towards each other. What we need to be doing is to be able to seek justice. Because what's happened, especially when we think about the impact of residential schools and the tropes that we've heard about Indigenous peoples and the confusion that we have when we think about, kids committing suicide en masse on reserves, when we think about the ongoing violence that happens through it's not maybe residential schools, but the child welfare system. When we think about the overrepresentation and the criminalization of Indigenous peoples in the criminal justice system and the penitentiary system, these aren't problems that they created. These are responsibilities for us to be able to seek justice on. And no matter where we are in terms of how we see our roles and trying to find common grounds, I would just say that it's important for us to make sure that it's not just about open hearts and common grounds. It's about seeking justice together. And the last thing I just want to say is, I haven't been in a spiritual space in a long time. Mosques have been closed for forever, it feels like. And on Fridays, you would go to the mosque and then you run into your friends and you give them giant bear hugs. And then, you go back to work. But even just hearing your chants and your songs, and your calls to open each other's hearts, and let the spirit in collectively, and chatting over each other while saying hi to everybody, was a really beautiful thing for me to experience. So thank you very much for having me. And I join you in my prayers to do better for all of us. Thank you.
It's always a joy to hear you, Mohammed, and I really hope we have many more opportunities to do this kind of work together, because there's a real alignment between the work that we do here and the work that you do there. And so go well, and thank you so much for coming. And now everyone in this congregation is going to be calling me Mr. Marmorek.
I'm really sorry I can't stick around too much longer. I promised my kid that I would take him to his cousin's pool, and he's been calling me and annoyed because I'm taking too long and it's 37 degrees outside. So please forgive me for not sticking around. But thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. In these times of isolation, let's not forget that this congregation is living, as we've seen so much life in it today, and living things need to be nurtured. So however you contribute, thank you. When you contribute to this community, we affirm our lives and make more things happen. So obviously we're not going to pass a basket, but maybe you could write a check, maybe you could make an e-transfer or do a recurring gift. It's very easy to set up that a certain amount of money, $5, 50 cents, whatever you can afford, is given each week to us. So there's a link in your chat window for you now, and all you need to do is click on it and it will take you to our donation page. We'll pause and you will hear a reprise of We Resist.
We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, we refuse to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. We resist, pray for your enemies to let hatred in. We rise up, we won't back down. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemy. Welcome the stranger. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. We're in this till the end.
Thank you. And now Susanne will lead us in the final song.
Everyone, we're going to sing a song for environmental justice written by Sarah Lynch Thomason, a UU composer living in South Carolina. So the first three verses outline some problems going on. The water's rising, the fire's burning, and the mountains tumbling. She lives in an area with a lot of mining. But the second half of the song gives us some hope. Even though the waters are rising, we're going to wade through them. Even though the fires are burning, we're going to walk, and we will rebuild the mountains. So I'll sing it for you once, teach it to you line by line, and we'll have a go. So it goes. I'll sing it once. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising. rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising. There are more waters rising. They will find their way to me. They will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. Fire's burning. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. Mountains falling. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters when they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. Walk through the fire. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will walk through the fire when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. Rebuild the mountain. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain when it finds its way to me. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know. One more time, wade through the water. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters, they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. Thank you, everyone.
I invite you to sing with our choir as our chalice is extinguished.
Although our chalice has been darkened, we hold the fire
Today, I will leave you with a Navajo blessing. With beauty before you, may you walk. With beauty behind you, may you walk. With beauty below you, may you walk. With beauty above you, may you walk. With beauty all around you, may you walk. In beauty it was begun. In beauty it is finished. If you're leaving, thank you for being here. Today's question to consider in your breakout room is to share the story of a time you did political action and how you were changed by it. If you prefer to just stay in the meeting by saying later, Susanne will be here and she will respond to questions you may have. We had a tradition of circling around and holding each other's hands. Instead, go to gallery view, unmute yourself, and together let us say namaste, which means I salute the spirit within you. In beauty, it is finished.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
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 All of you.
Namaste.
Have a good week. Have a good week, everyone. Namaste.
Have a wonderful week. Namaste.